There's a lot of talk about pre-shot routines. Some are shorter and some are longer. Mine, I wipe off my shoes, wipe off my ball, left shoe again, a couple of seconds about what I'm doing, get up and throw it. You have some that are like Randy Peterson and Walter Ray, get up there in no time at all. And next we'll go to Carolyn Doran Ballard, who probably takes as long as anyone I know.
Kind of ironic, they've asked me to talk about the pre-shot routine. That's something very important to me and is a very important part of my game. It helps me mostly mentally. I'm going to tell you what I do to put me into that moment where everything else is just a blur. Before I pick up my bowling ball, the first thing I do is I close my eyes at the settee area and I visualize my shot. After that, I pick up my towel and my rosin bag, pick up my ball, and I wipe my ball off 4 times. This is the part that's probably the most important, and I really can't explain why. It just is. I close my eyes while I am rotating my rosin bag and just squeezing it. I don't know why it helps me, but while I'm closing my eyes, I am putting myself in a very positive place with positive thoughts. At the US Open and the Women's World Championships, I can tell you what I was thinking about. I was thinking about my husband and my daughter. That puts me in a good, positive place. It makes me feel calm, and now I'm ready to bowl. I suggest that you put yourself in a positive place. Negative thoughts is not what you need before you walk on the approach. Negative thoughts will not make you the bowler you need to be. So remember, get a pre-shot routine. It's going to get you focused and get you to the point you need to be.
See the ball, be the ball. Often visualization is a big part of the mental game, and one of those big choices can be targeting and how you look at a target. You have to make the choice to physically focus on that target, and we're going to see one of USBC's most technologically advanced products to show you how to target.
Visualization is a really important part of bowling. It starts way back in the settee area before you even pick up the bowling ball. The great thing about visualization is it's something you can practice at home. It's all about closing your eyes, visualizing that perfect shot off your hand, and watching the motion as it goes down the lane, hitting the pocket. Rod, we have a great tool here at the ITRC for visualization.
Yeah, we have what we call the goggles, and the goggles is a neat innovation that we have that we actually can see what a bowler's looking at. So even though the bowler is visualizing what they want the ball to do in transition going down, we can actually see what they're looking at when they pick up the ball and the motion that the ball is making down the lane. The interesting thing that we found so far is there's a distinct difference between mid-level bowlers and high-end bowlers. Our mid-level bowlers, their eyes are all over the place. They kind of think they're looking at a target, and they'll jump off to the left, jump off the right, look up and down, and they'll swear they're looking at the target. But when we get to the advanced bowlers, elite bowlers, what have we seen?
With the elite bowlers, usually what we watch is our break point from down the lane back towards the foul line. That allows us to watch the lane back to front, front to back. Very rarely do we look side to side.
And what's interesting is we've seen it on generations, different generations brought. Some are based off target and they stay focused on that one target at the end. Others that we're seeing on the new players are constantly moving up and back, but everything's in linear, front, back, up in the lane. Nothing going horizontal and side to side.
One of the great things I found with the goggles is it really showed me on some of the shots where I really thought I hit my target and I was getting my ball to that break point. It showed me by fact that I was not hitting my target, so it brought out some points that I needed to work on.
And we've actually seen too, some players have been almost astounded at how much their head moves around. With the goggles on there, we can actually see how much their heads are moving around. Some players even close their eyes at the moment of release. They're trying to get that little extra stuff on the bowling ball, and they actually close their eyes. They don't believe it until they actually see it on these goggles. And it actually, once their mind sees it, just like the visualization, then they'll believe it, then they can do it.
So actually what you're telling me is the goggles, and you're telling me I'm not perfect.
Oh, wow. How do you answer that?
Pressure situations. We've all been in them. It doesn't matter if it's for your first 200 game, your first 300 game, a league championship, or the US Open. We've all been in them, we've all failed in them at some point, and hopefully we've all succeeded in them. How you deal with these pressure situations has a lot to do with how others view you as successful or not. And largely how much pressure you feel is how much you make up about how important that moment is. Ultimately, you're still only walking about 15 feet and trying to hit a target on a lane. But many things like money, title, teammates, trophy, all these things can add much more to a particular situation. The most pressure I ever felt was at the US Open and having to strike for a win on one of the toughest patterns I ever bowled on. But what made it the hardest was all the surrounding things that I made up about it as well.
Gotta be a strike. Gets it.
That makes up for a bunch of them right there. Woo! We're going to go with two of the most successful players to ever play our sport and get some of their thoughts on how to handle pressure situations.
Beautiful shot. And she gets it.
Oh, and she's right again, and the 7 goes down this time.
Big shot actually early in the match. Boy, you can hear the crack from here, March.
Just pure, great shot off her hand.
Handling pressure. It's really funny. After a TV show and I would get home, people would look at me and say, "You look so calm on TV. It looks so easy." You have no idea. It's just not that easy.
It really isn't. It's the one thing that I struggled with most in my game over the years. And I remember when it sort of changed for me. I had been working with a sports psychologist, and I'd been through a few. And I would just get on TV and panic, being so afraid of making a mistake, disappointing my family, my friends, and I was almost paralyzed. And so I think working with Dr. Dean Hinnitzen, he's helped me really feel like I just had so many regrets in the past. And it's so much better to get home, look myself in the mirror, and not feel bad about who I was when I threw the ball.
It's funny, you try to stay as positive as you can, especially in those pressure situations, because you don't want to make a mistake. But one of the things I found was I got into the fact of being away from bowling when the women's tour folded. I lost that mental toughness. You know, when you're used to doing something all the time, like a pre-shot routine where it puts you in that moment, it gets you focused. I lost some of my mental focus, what was important. So I came to the ITRC, and Kim and Rod helped me over the last year or so on really trying to find out where I needed to be at that moment to help me excel.
Right, and I think in just staying present, that's one of the things that, in coaching, I found that getting players to recognize that every single shot counts, whether they're in practice, league play, tournament play, to make every shot matter. So when it comes down to it, you need to make that great shot to win the Queens or the US Open or the Masters, or, win your league title. It's no different than what you did and what you've practiced over and over again.
And listen to this reaction.
Come on, CDB. Yeah!
Calling out her own initials. Come on, CD.
And it's really hard when you're thinking that all these people are watching you. Oh my gosh, what are they going to think of me? It's really not what they think of you, it's what you think of yourself. And one of the things I really had to get the grip on again is that I am in the moment. I'm going to try the best I can. And if I fail, which is not a bad thing, I realize what I did, I make the change, and hopefully I don't do that again on the next shot. So really, failure is a learning experience. Although you may not like it, it's something you really have to take notice of and just make the right adjustments.
Still got to be aggressive. I totally agree. Let's see what happens.
Beautiful.
Kim Terrell. Kearney is the new 2008 U.S. Women's Open champion.
Right, and it's having that good perspective of, I think that's one of the great things, and, unfortunately not having a women's tour anymore and not getting to play every single week, you get to go home and be normal and realize that, as much as it matters, and it's how you pay your mortgage and how you define your success, that it's a game. Give yourself a break. We all make mistakes. Sometimes we'll throw great shots when it matters, and sometimes we won't.
Sometimes we're great, sometimes we're not, but we're great in other ways. And really, the mental focus and the visualization has really helped me, especially being here at the ITRC when we've done the goggles and worked with Team USA, taking a step back and realizing that when I do make a mistake, don't think too far ahead. Think about staying in that moment that there's, you know, it's one of those things, don't think about the 10th frame, I'm only in the 3rd, because then I missed the 4th to the 9th frame and the game is over. So that was really important to me, was stop thinking ahead, stop putting so much pressure on myself, because I did have a tendency to beat myself up a lot. It was always me. It was, you know, why couldn't you do better? Why are you making mistakes? And really, you helped me take a step back and say, you know what, it's okay. So let's just move on to the next frame and take one shot at a time.
So you can make educated decisions.
When it comes to equipment, you want to have the right gear. If your hand doesn't come out of the ball right, well, it can lead to some issues. In addition to fit, ball choices can also affect your score. Advanced equipment is part of the game, and understanding it can be a key to increasing your average.
One of the most frequent questions I get is, Chris, what's the right ball for me? And the answer is, it could be just about any one of them on a given condition and lane surface. So what we're going to do in this section is we're going to give you the tools to make that decision yourself by going through the ball types, ball motion, surface management, and some lesser known factors that can all contribute into that, what is the right equipment for me? When throwing a ball down the lane, it goes through 3 distinct phases: skid, hook, and roll. Now, while we've all seen them do this, we may not have thought about it in quite this way. In the first 20 feet or so, the ball will skid. Now, as it gets down here past the arrows, it goes into the hook phase, along where your break point is. And then past this last rangefinders, now you want the ball to go into a roll, so it has the least amount of deflection. Understanding your ball motion is a key component to being able to understand your equipment.
As a Team USA head coach, we get contacted quite often about what is the magic bowling ball, what is the secret of equipment. To understand equipment in bowling balls, you need to understand ball motion and the phases that a bowling ball goes through down the lane to the pins. We have 3 phases. The first phase is called the skid phase. This is when the ball is coming off the bowler's hand. It's on the front part of the lane, and it's generally about to the first 15 to 20 feet maximum going down the lane. This is when the ball is at its fastest speed and has its most axis rotation. The next phase is the hook phase. The hook phase generally starts about 20, 22 feet and continues down. We want to see it somewhere down, especially on tournament play, somewhere down in the 40, 45 foot range. After that, we have the roll phase. The roll phase is when the ball is going in a straight linear line and it's rolling end over end. It's lost all its axis rotation and it actually is traveling at the slowest speed. What we see a lot of times is the skid phase ends up being about 30 to 40 feet. The ball starts in its hook phase at about 45 feet or so. The ball never gets into the roll phase. The majority of the time when you're leaving those corner pins is because the ball's still in the hook phase and not into the roll phase as it goes into the pins. This pertains a lot to what ball you're going to select and the surface on that bowling ball for your equipment to be able to match up to the lane conditions.
Ball manufacturers are always looking for a better way to create a product to help your game. But much like you would need to know the difference between a sports car and a pickup, there are so many different options today between plastic, resin, dough balls, shiny balls, RGs, differentials. There's a vast array of options out there. Rod's going to help you determine which ball type is best for you.
Now that we understand the phases of ball motion, let's get into the equipment and selection and matching up for you. In front of me I have 3 high-performance bowling balls from different manufacturers. As you can see, I have a dull one here on my left, kind of a medium finish on one in the center, and a highly polished one on the right. These 3 balls will give me distinct different motions going down the lane. Remember we talked about that first phase, but it was skid. This one will give me least skid. This one will give me the maximum skid. So if you're a player that is on the slower speed, you probably want to be looking at a ball that's a little shinier so you can get the ball down the lane. On the other end, if you're a player with very high speed or high RPMs, you probably want to get a ball that's going to get into a roll a little bit sooner. The key is getting the ball to match up to you. Even though these balls come this way from the manufacturer off the shelf, we recommend that you fine-tune them to match up to your game. You can change the surface on these balls. We can take this bowling ball down and make it similar to this one, or even almost all the way down to here. On the same end, we can take this ball and shine it up. So you can fine tune these balls after you purchase them to match up to your game. Just because they came that way from the manufacturer does not mean they're the best for you. Bowling ball cores or bowling ball dynamics. The engine or the inside of the bowling ball has a lot to do with the motion the ball is going to be doing down the lane. Please remember, the surface of that bowling ball dictates the distance that you're going to be doing the skid and controlling when the ball grabs. The core is going to dictate the motion it does when it starts to change direction. On my left here I have what's called an asymmetrical. An asymmetrical is the ball core is not exactly the same all the way around. Think of it as a mug with a handle on the side. It's not going to be the same. On my right, I have a symmetrical. It is going to be just like that Coke bottle or that Pepsi bottle. It's going to be exactly the same all the way around. These two will kind of give you slightly different motions. Inside here in the middle, I have two cores. I have a very large core and I have a small core. The small core creates what we call a lower RG. It's going to be more center heavy. To my right here, I have a large core. The weight's going to be closer to the outside of the shell. How that relates to bowling is that if you took an ice skater, and an ice skater has their arms out, they're spinning slightly slow. As they pull their arms in, they start spinning faster. This would be the ice skater if their arms out. This would be the ice skater when they pull their arms in. The key is matching it up to your style and your game. Your local pro shop operator can help you make the proper choices.
The easiest part of a bowling ball to manipulate is the surface. It's the only part that touches the lane. With a few Abralon pads, a little bit of polish, and a towel, you two can either make your break point sooner or later fairly easily. Coach Rod Ross and Earl the Robot will show you and demonstrate how to make your old ball do new tricks.
Adjusting the surface on the bowling ball is done by utilizing sanding pads manufactured by several different companies that you can use in your bowling ball. They come in a wide range of grits, from like 360 even down to 180 up to 4,000. The difference is the higher the number, the larger the number, the finer the grit, the smoother it's going to be. The lower the number, the 180s, the 360, the rougher it's going to be, the more it's going to make the ball want to read early or pick up early. It's going to make it rougher. It's easy to adjust the surface on your bowling ball. If you just take one of your pads and just slightly adjust the surface, you can see right off now it is substantially duller. That is going to make the ball act like the lanes are drier. It's going to actually make the ball read earlier. It's going to make the hook face start sooner. The ball is actually going to be smoother as it goes down the lane. Let's take a look at Earl, our robot, and show you some of the differences of different surfaces with the same ball going down the lane.
Of course, the bowling ball is the most obvious piece of the equipment puzzle, but there are many other smaller things that can contribute to your success. Carolyn will be in the pro shop showing you many of the ways that the pros and amateurs alike can prepare to be their best on the lanes.
Welcome to the Pro Shop. The Pro Shop is located inside your bowling center. You've spent a lot of money on your equipment. Let me give you some hints as to how you can maintain that equipment. It's kind of like having a car. You have your car, you need to get the oil changed so that you can maintain your vehicle for as long as you want. Same thing with bowling equipment. When you get to the Pro Shop, ask your operator what you can do to get the oil off your ball and get the surface back to as clean as possible. They have a lot of cleaners out there that will be available to you. One of them is a wipe. You just take it out of the bag, and as you're wiping the surface of the bowling ball, you'll see it'll look wet. It will dry really quickly, and you will notice that that oil line on the ball will be gone. How often should you do this? Well, I suggest you do it every time you bowl. If you can't, if you bowl once twice, 3 times a week. At the end of every week, clean your equipment, and that will maintain it for a long time. Why clean our ball? Why maintain it? You know why? When that oil gets on this bowling ball, it continues to soak into the bowling ball. Guess what happens? The ball stops hooking. And as you know, you don't want your ball to stop hooking. Seek your local pro shop out. They will have the answer. What we used to do in the old days is sand the ball way down to a 180 grit and then bring it all the way back. And that took the oil off the surface. But with today's bowling balls, things have changed. Your pro shop operator will help you decide what is best for the equipment that you have. Something you can do on your own is use a spray cleaner that is available in the pro shop or a microfiber towel. Just by wiping off the surface of that ball, it will take the surface oil off, but will not take that oil that has soaked into the ball out. If you're just getting ready to purchase your brand new bowling ball, make sure you go to your pro shop operator and have them fit you properly. You don't want to just go anywhere to get your bowling ball drilled. If it has been suggested to you to use a wrist device, and there are many wrist devices out there on the market, this is going to help you hook the ball a little bit more and keep your wrist firm. Please make sure that that pro shop operator measures you and fits you with the wrist device on. It will then fit you properly. If you're going to spend all this money on your equipment, I want you to have everything necessary to perform to the best of your ability. The biggest problem I see when I travel the country is bowling shoes. The house shoes or lower performance shoes have the same sole and heel. It does not allow you to grip to the approach and get a good slide into the foul line to create leverage. I suggest a higher performance shoe. Each shoe is going to do something different. One shoe is going to have rubber on it. You will be able to create a great power step with the shoe. It will then allow you to slide into the line, create really good leverage to execute your shot. No matter whether I'm bowling league, going to a tournament, especially the Open Championship, you will never see me without my accessory bag. And my accessory bag has everything in it that I will need to perform to the highest level. I always bring my thumb tape, which I use on top of my thumb so that I don't cut. And because my skin is dry, it covers my skin so it doesn't get raw. Glue to glue in my grips. I'm always changing my grips, so I always have a bottle of glue with me. Bowling tape. I go through thousands of pieces of bowling tape. This helps me create the feel I need with my bowling ball so that I can throw it the same every shot. Extra soles and heels for my shoes. I never know what surface or approach I'm going to be bowling on, so I need to be prepared with my bowling shoes. And lastly, always have a pair of scissors. This will help you insert the bowler's tape into your thumb and also help you insert your grips.
Lift it straight up and keep your heels on the floor.
Bowling isn't only about the time you spend on the lanes. There are many opportunities to improve your physical conditioning, help prevent injuries, and work on specific bowling-related movements in the gym and even in your own home. By taking a little extra time off the lanes, your time on the lanes could prove to be much more fruitful.